So welcome to SLR's course pack on Constitutional Law 2. Constitutional Law 2 covers everything except the fundamental rights and the directive principles of state policy. Alright, so let's get back to the Constituent Assembly debates, right? Any course on constitutional law should ideally start with the Constituent Assembly debates and then come to case law, right? So, let's start with a speech by B.R. Ambedkar on the floor of the Constituent Assembly. He said a student of constitutional law, if a copy of the Constitution is placed in his hands, is sure to ask two questions. What are those two questions? Two questions that even you should ask. Firstly, what is the form of government that is envisaged in the Constitution? And secondly, what is the form of the Constitution? So what are those two questions? What is the form of government? Right? And what is the form of the Constitution? What is the form of government? We're talking about, is it a presidential form of government? Is it a parliamentary form of government? Right? And secondly, what is the form of the Constitution? Is it a unitary constitution like it is in the United Kingdom, or is it a federal constitution like it is in, say, Germany, Australia, or the United States? Right? So what about India? Right? Now, in India, right, we are very, very different from the American form of government. Right? The American form of government is called the presidential form of government, the presidential system of form of government, right? Basically, what B.R. Ambedkar says is that what the draft constitution proposes is the parliamentary system, and the two are fundamentally different. So how is the parliamentary system different from the presidential system? We'll come to that shortly, right? So that deals with the form of government. Okay, now let's deal with the form of the Constitution. Two forms of the Constitution are known world over, right? What are those two forms? There's unitary form and there's the federal form of the Constitution, right? Is India unitary or federal? That's a complex question that we will answer shortly as well. Now let's start with Albert Van Dicey's views on federalism. Okay, so we need to ascertain the nature of federalism first to ascertain the form and nature of India's constitution, right? So according to Dicey, two conditions essentially were requisite, right? Two conditions were necessary, right, for the existence of federalism. What are these two conditions according to Dicey? Well, according to Dicey, the first condition is that a body of countries, such as, say, the cantons of Switzerland, the colonies of America, or the provinces of Canada, so closely connected by locality, by history, by race, or the like, and as be capable of bearing in the eyes of their inhabitants an impress of common nationality, right? So the question you have to ask yourself is, in India, do we have an impress of common nationality? Is there an impress of common nationality in the United States, right? Often, right, you hear about the South in the United States that feels rather disillusioned from the North, right? The old Civil War days, right, where you had the Confederacy fighting the Union. Even more recently, you had states like, South Carolina in the United States that lowered the Confederate flag and are considering an outright ban on the Confederate flag, right? It's still very complex in the United States. What does it mean to be American? What does it mean to be American? Is it Hollywood? Is it, McDonald's? Is it the Big Mac? Is it, food? Is it fried stuff with cheese, as they say in the United States? Is it George Washington? Is it freedom, as they say, as George Bush would like to say, right? What really makes you American is, freedom and sort of individual drive, and capitalism. Is capitalism, the definition of what it is to be American, right? Or is it, what they call American exceptionalism, right? See, all these terms sort of hint at an impress of common nationality, right? Basically, right? So you have people singing, the national anthem at baseball games, basketball games in the United States, the Stars and Stripes and the Star Spangled Banner, sorry, that's the anthem, right? Basically, right? The Stars and Stripes and the flag, each star representing each state. I mean, is there an impress of common nationality? That's what Dicey says, right, essentially is necessary for there to be a federalist state, a federalism, basically, all right? Now, according to Dicey, the second condition that's absolutely essential to the founding of a federal system is the existence of a very peculiar state of sentiment among the inhabitants of the countries, right? There must be a peculiar state of sentiment. What does that mean? Very abstract. Yes, very abstract. But for example, in India, right, is there a peculiar state of sentiment? What does it mean to be Indian? That age-old question that you've never really been able to answer. What does it mean to be Indian? Is India a Hindu nation? Does being Indian mean being Hindu? According to the RSS, Hindu and India are interchangeable. Well, there are a lot of people who disagree with that assessment. What does it mean to be Indian? Are you vegetarian? What does it mean to be Indian? Do you like cricket? I mean, is cricket all there is to being Indian? What about religion? Where does religion come into play? What about culture? People in the north are completely different from people in the south. Hell, even people in the north, even within north, in the north, you have people from Jammu and Kashmir who have a completely different culture from the people in Punjab, or for that matter, people in Rajasthan. What about the people in Gujarat? They're completely different from people in West Bengal. They have a different language. The cuisine is different, right? Culture, they worship different gods, right? What unites them? Where is that impress of common nationality in India? That's the question, right? That according to Dicey, you must ask, right? Now, Dicey pointed out that without the desire, right, basically, without the desire to unite, there could be no basis for federalism. So, for Dicey, a federal state is nothing more than a political contrivance intended to reconcile national unity with the maintenance of state rights. We find this in India. We find how the states are constantly at loggerheads with the union, right? So again, is India a federation or India a union? Well, on a literal interpretation of Article 1, India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of states, right? So it says, so is India not a federation? Is India not a federation simply because we don't have the words Federal Republic of India? Say, for example, unlike, say, the case of Germany, right, essentially, right? So we don't have federal in the name, right? So does that mean we're not federal, right? Do we go beyond just labels? Does it matter? Well, according to Rajendra Prasad, the president of the Constituent Assembly, he said, well, for him at least, it does not matter what label you put on the Constitution. What matters is the people who are elected, who are chosen to work the Constitution.